Welcome, friends, to Total Health Channel. Thank you for being with us from time to time and have some, I think, good information to share with you. This is four amazing facts that Christians should understand, I believe, especially those wanting to be in God's special group, the 144,000. They are relevant to the U.S. in the end time, which I believe is impending. And we'll start with number one, which is, I think, the best single verse to prove that God exists, that he knows the end from the beginning. In Isaiah 45, the first verse, God named Cyrus actually more than 100 years before he was born and told how he would conquer Babylon when two river gates were left open. Cyrus didn't know anything about this at all, but he diverted the river Euphrates into a reservoir and at night walked under the wall of Babylon to discover two river gates that were left open. And he conquered Babylon with no loss of life. But when Daniel showed him his name in the ancient writings taken from Jerusalem 70 years earlier at the end of the Babylonian captivity, Cyrus was impressed. He saw in the previous verse that God wanted his temple in Jerusalem rebuilt, and he cooperated with his destiny. 5 verses before naming Cyrus, it says God forms us in the womb, which, by the way, happens to have serious impact in this nation that has aborted 63 million babies into the trash can. We are judging. We are worse than Egypt. Egypt threw a few thousand maybe in the river, but we have aborted 63 million. We cannot escape judgment if God is a fair judge. Judgment is coming. And the point is also that Passover event that freed Israel was a Jubilee event. In Leviticus, the 25th chapter, where it explains Jubilee coming on the 50th year after 7 weeks of years, it says that they were freed from servitude and they were given restored to their land. Well, Israel went to the promised land, and this is about a similar event for us, really, in the end time, as history repeats. You might wonder why this Cyrus thing is relevant to us today, but in Ecclesiastes 3:15, I like the New English Bible on this. It says, "What is has been already; what is to come has been already. God summons each event back in its turn." And my favorite author says that all the great events and solemn transactions of Old Testament history are repeating themselves in the last days. The point is that Exodus has to be one of those, and it was based on a single sentence or two that Joseph gave to Pharaoh. He said there's going to be, when Pharaoh had these dreams and he was impressed that they were important, of 7 fat cows eaten up by 7 lean cows, etc. And the fat ears of corn were eaten by the 7 lean ears. Joseph told Pharaoh, there's going to be 7 good years of plenty and then 7 of famine. And my point is that I believe since multiple signs in 2015, in the next year, 2016, Trump was elected president, and we've had plenty to eat for 7 years. But big signs are coming of bad stuff, droughts and floods and all the natural things which are upheaval. I believe we're in for big trouble starting this year, 23. But so far, nothing has happened. So we've looked at number one, amazing fact of Cyrus. And number 2 fact is Cyrus II. Israel has a coin with Trump's engraving on it. And is he really Cyrus II? Well, look at Daniel 8:17, where it says the vision is at the time of the end. Seventh-day Adventists have thought that was the Millerite movement, and Christ was going to come in 1844. But sadly, they did not look at a concordance, because there are 2 words for vision in Daniel 8 chapter. One is the Kazon vision of a ram and goat. The other is the Merah vision, which Daniel heard of one saint speaking to another, 2,300 days or years, then will the sanctuary be cleansed. Adventists focus on that 2,300 years, 1844, time of the end. Well, if we're really honest and we look at a concordance, the major concordances today, Englishman's, Bible Works, Young's, Strong's, they say the Kazon, the ram and goat vision, is at the time of the end. Medes and Persians today are Iraq and Iran. We've done Iraq. Okay, we will. The next war, I believe, is with Iran, and it will be because of provocation. We should wonder what makes it. Well, the last chapter of Zechariah says the day of the Lord comes, and nations are gathered against Jerusalem. Houses rifled, women raped, half the city goes into captivity. Bad situation, but that will make the goat angry to fight the ram. And I believe that we're impending on those events. I thought we would see evidence of this before now. But that brings us to the point is second amazing fact is that the trump could be the Cyrus II. The vision at the time of the end has a great horn on a goat. And in Bible times, they cut off the horns to blow through them. They were a shofar or trumpet. Well, the great trumpet is, I believe, makes America great, as it says in Daniel 8:8. And it's just interpretation for today, but not hard to make that judgment. Trump is still around. He's not just a defeated foe. He's the front runner for the Republican Party in the next election. And it may not even wait till then. In my opinion, if Muslims take Jerusalem, I think the military will say to Trump, let's get them. And I think he will say, okay, go. My opinion is that these are events that are impending. And you might wonder why. Christ gave a 9/11 warning to us in each of the last 6 parables of Matthew 24 and 25. How did he do it? Well, the first one was, as he says, no man knows the day or hour, but as the days of Noah. Well, in the days of Noah, the flood came with Passover timing, time of judgment, but in the second spring month. And the next, we think, well, that's just an odd coincidence. But in the next parable, it begins, then shall 2 be in the field. Then is the same time, or as a direct consequence. And when Christ ended the parables of Matthew 25, evil servant begins to smite his fellow servants, then it's like 10 virgins. And the 10 virgins, Christ says, you don't understand. It's watch and pray. Watch, that was a command only at Passover, but he says it's like a man traveling to a far country. That was the other 9/11 provision. In Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11, there was a provision if an Israelite took a long trip and couldn't get back in time for Passover, they were not excused. Passover meant judgment, and everybody has to face that. So they kept it the second month, and that's we think, oh, Christ was just changing the subject. It's like a man who took was traveling to a far country, gave some talents to his servants, 5, some 3, some 1. Well, but the reason they didn't understand was because it was like a man traveling to a far country. The reason is a provision in 9:11, Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11. So we need to understand timing. If God won't do anything without revealing it, the timing is revealed. If we think, oh, can't know, won't know, never know, stupid idea, because I believe in our time and it's relevant, and we need to be ready to respond immediately. In Luke 12, verse 35 and 36, that when he comes and knocks, we open immediately. Immediately is like James and John, or Peter. When Christ called them, they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him. Well, I think that we need to do that too. That we need to be that ready, and it means understanding it ahead of time. Okay, if you don't understand something ahead of time and something big happens, it takes a while for it to dawn on you. You can't respond immediately. So I just say, hey, Christ will be looking for those who are looking for him. Do you really care enough about his appointed times, like Passover? We don't have to kill a lamb. We don't have to eat bitter herbs. But as Ellen White, favorite author, said, as Christ ate the Passover with his disciples, he instituted in its place the service that was to be the memorial of his great sacrifice. That's her book, Desire of Ages, page 652, second paragraph. And so if it's in its place, why don't we do it on the eve of Passover? But in this case, I'm explaining it's second Passover. Well, even second Passover came and went, according to most people's belief, because nothing happened in the first part of May, as I was looking for. But I thought, if this is the year and Christ's words are true, maybe that wasn't second Passover. And sure enough, Googling it, and when the Passover includes, in Leviticus 23, the waving of a wave sheaf of barley that has ripened, is aviv. They call it aviv, is like a vivir in Spanish is to live, okay? It's alive, aviv. And it's for Abib, that's the month. In Spanish, B's and V's are pronounced the same. We used to say, is it con burro or con vaca? The vaca is the cow, the burro is a burro, okay? And one is spelled with a B, one with a V. But the idea is it's sort of interchangeable. But the bottom line was this messianic Jewish fellow looking at the fields did not see a field that was aviv. Maybe a few samples here or there, but not a field that you would say is a real harvest. So, and I'll put the link in the thing below, but bottom line is, wasn't aviv, so need to realize that the first month did not start in March 22. It was April 21, but it was the first month. And the second month, if you Google it, May 19 comes up in Google. May 19? Oh, what's that? May 19, 1780 was a dark day, okay? And New Englanders thought it portended the Lord's coming. But 200 years later, in 1980, May 19 was again a dark day in the Northwest because Mount St. Helens erupted the day before and winds carried the ash so that by the next day, May 19, three states were darkened by ash, dark day. Well, is God marking the dark day? In May 19, and what's the purpose of marking that if May 19 isn't going to be important? And this year, I think it will be important because it's the start of the second month when we need 2 weeks later to be watching and praying on the eve. It'll be Saturday evening, Sabbath evening of June 3, basically when we should watch and pray. And I believe could be big, so hang on to your hats. I know this, but this is tied to facts that are in the calendar and in the scriptures. So I just appeal to you to watch, pray, be ready. This is the point is that the barley wasn't ready in March 22, and barley typifies the 144,000. Do we want to be in that group? Is God going to get his group? He calls it a sharp threshing instrument with which he will thresh mountains. God took down Egypt with Moses, but we can be like Moses or Elijah in our time for our communities. And so I'll just say, hang on to your hat. This is not over yet. And please like and share this with others so that they can be ready as well. God bless you. We'll see you later.